Hello, and welcome to this CloudMaker Expert Talk episode on best practices for Windows Defender. My name is Dwayne Natwick. I'm an Azure MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer and a regional lead for that program. I'm also a cloud training architect lead for Opsgility and Skill Me Up. And you can follow me on the social media links provided on this slide.
Hello, I'm Tim Hermé. I'm a modern workplace architect at Synergix from Belgium. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in the enterprise mobility category since May. A Microsoft certified trainer, got nominated and got the award of Microsoft Most Valuable Mentor by Microsoft. You can get in touch with my contact details there. Thank you. So, what's on the schedule for today? We're going to be talking about what Microsoft Defender XDR is, how does it work, and what licensing is after it, or what licenses are required. What services does Microsoft Defender provide? And at last, how does Microsoft Defender protect our organization? We'll also put in some demos, and I'll give you the word to Dwayne.
Thank you, Tim. So we're going to start off by just setting the stage on what is Microsoft Defender XDR. And many of you may be familiar with Microsoft ATP, or Advanced Threat Protection. At Microsoft Ignite this year, they made some adjustments to the naming convention and wanted to bring it all under the Microsoft Defender category. And what they started to do is they changed some of the Advanced Threat Protection naming conventions and put Microsoft Defender in front of it. But overall, it's now a full ecosystem, and that XDR ecosystem is now made up of the Office Advanced Threat Protection, the cloud application security services that Tim and I talked about in our last talk. There is then Microsoft Defender ATP is tied much closer now into Azure Security Center. Then there's the identity protection piece where, again, it ties into Azure Active Directory, Azure Advanced Threat Protection, again, Microsoft Cloud App Security, and then our data protection in the Office Advanced Threat Protection capabilities of information protection, data protection, things like that are now all within this Defender XDR ecosystem of services. As you build out your security platform in Microsoft 365 as well as Azure, you can now take advantage of all of these within one platform that Microsoft's working to tie very tightly together so that everything works together. You can tie it all into like Azure Sentinel SIEM and Azure Security Center to monitor and manage your services. So how are we going to then utilize that and then build your protection suite? So the key things here is we're now building upon best of breed security within the Microsoft ecosystem. We're introducing those new layers of cross-product knowledge and capabilities within Microsoft, that we're all part of that Microsoft Defender suite and Microsoft's global threat intelligence database, and providing then coordinated protection to stop attacks and automate that remediation through through all these pieces of identity protection, endpoint protection, email and collaboration, as well as applications, all within how we're going to orchestrate and provide and identify potential threats and vulnerabilities within your organization. And as we go through this and go through our comprehensive protection here, again, we have, obviously we want to protect. We want to have our prevention to block threats and identify vulnerabilities, identify that suspicious activity through detection. We need to have the ability to investigate and understand what the full path was potentially within your environment of that attack. We want to be able to then, once we investigate, be able to take care and take the steps to remediate that and help to clean those compromised assets, as well as then understand what needs to take place to put controls, to enable controls that are going to avoid that from taking place, from that attack from taking place again. We want to be able to then hunt and discover, potential hidden threats and vulnerabilities, and utilize threat analytics to stay informed, utilizing Microsoft's threat intelligence database and machine learning and AI capabilities and cognitive services. All of those machine learning capabilities to detect anomalies and analyze those anomalies in our environment, and then look at our vulnerabilities, find more vulnerabilities, find misconfigurations within our environment. I've done talks on Azure Security Center. Azure Security Center helps to create those recommendations and those remediations for potential vulnerabilities and potential misconfigurations that you need to do as well. And then have the access to the threat, to threat experts, the Microsoft threat intelligence, to bring that all together as and utilize that information within your entire protection umbrella and your defense in depth security strategy. So here's just a breakdown of overall what is Microsoft Defender XDR, and as I said before, it is a inclusion of a bunch of Microsoft services that are within all of the Microsoft 365 and Azure cloud security services today, and it's built around Azure Advanced Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection, and it provides then that threat and vulnerability management, attack surface reduction, next generation protection, endpoint detection and response, auto investigation and remediation, and then again the threat expertise that Microsoft has on the back end, all through centralized configuration and administration. So that the key thing here is now it's all, these services that have been available for quite a while for advanced threat protection, but we're all in different portals and things like that. Microsoft is bringing it all together into single centralized management capabilities. And here's just an understanding and just to see where Microsoft falls in terms of the security, the Gartner Security and Compliance Magic Quadrants, and you can see on many of these in terms of access management, endpoint protection, that Microsoft falls in most categories in the leader category. They're here in the cloud access and security brokers in a challenger category. They just have a little way to move over to get into the leader category there. But Microsoft is viewed, the thing to take away from this slide is to understand that Microsoft around security and compliance is among one of the leaders across all of these security and compliance categories by an independent analyst company such as Gartner. And this is just showing a little bit deeper here. You can see for endpoint protection as well as cloud access security brokers, Microsoft being there in the top of the line for both of those. And then for endpoint security management, there's many factors here for workplace mobility that that factor into both the organization and the users, where all devices, and security, we have the security admin experiences. Security baselines are becoming a great tool to set up a specific the security best practices within your environment right off the bat. You set up a Microsoft 365 tenant, and you can very easily put the security baselines in place and set up a base security standard within your organization that are based on Microsoft's learned and known security baselines for protecting your environment. Azure does very similar things with utilizing Azure policies. So it puts policies in place and helps to protect your environment, and then also then assigns different security tasks that might need to go into your environment, especially in hybrid types of environments where you might need to take into account, what controls need to be put in place, and assign those tasks to users within your organization and administrators to adhere to complying to completing those tasks. And as we talk about the roles and responsibilities, then and the factors of taking into account our security environment, there's really two places that we need to look at. We have our security operations team, which is really responsible for all of the monitoring and reduction of risk, analyzing those threats, looking at those incidents, identifying how to mitigate those threats, and look at how to quickly remediate those threats and what those impacts are of those threats on users and devices and applications within your environment. And then we also have they need to work closely with our IT team. And if they and the responsibility within the IT team is to configure those security policies, analyze how those policies and what the impacts might be for on the environment and on those applications, and what their priority is then is to have a stable IT environment and lower those costs. But they need to work together. They can't necessarily have, there is a clear separation of duties here, and the ability then for them to work together. The security ops does have, need to protect that IT team and to have the clear separation of duties so that they do not, that they can both perform their duties, and they don't need each other necessarily, but they do need to work together to make sure that the proper security controls are in place and that they don't impact the IT environment as a whole. And this just shows that they're, the point of them working together again, and that intersect point where they need to, rather than being two separate entities that are working apart from each other, that they come together. And again, those security controls need to mesh well with what the IT team needs to do to keep the environment running. And that's really the key thing here in terms of the intersection and the cohesive teamwork that the security ops team and the IT team need to take into account. And finally here, when we're thinking about, what we need to do here in terms of how we manage then in a central location, we talked about how Microsoft's bringing the XDR suite all together to be able to then manage these. And they have a very, very tightly tied together security dashboard for monitoring and managing these threats and looking at device security. They're tying, as I said, a lot of this into the Azure Security Center, and having that single place, that single source of truth where you can find information and continue to manage and monitor that information. And again, look at those threats, find those threats, understand what the vulnerabilities are that might be causing those threats, and then put the controls in place that are necessary. So Tim, why don't you talk about the licensing that's required and how Microsoft Defender works?
Yes, thanks, Dwayne. So if we look at the licensing requirements, of course, it's included with the Windows 10 Enterprise E5 or A5 license. If we look at the bundle licenses, the Microsoft 365 licenses, it's only included in the E5 or the E5 security. But what we see a lot with our customers or the projects that we are doing is that we work with personas. So we have the IT team, which we will give Microsoft 365 E5 licenses. We give them the best license. But for the end users, we can also decide to take a Microsoft 365 A3 license and buy the add-on for Defender for Endpoints. That's a bit cheaper than the Microsoft 365 E5 license, and it also works. So this was on a side note. But yeah, Windows 10 Enterprise E5, the A5, the Microsoft 365 E5 or A5, and also remember that you can have Defender Advanced Threat Protection on up to 5 concurrent devices within your license. If we then look at the licensing requirements for the servers, it's a little bit the same. The 10 Enterprise license is in there. If we have an Azure Security Center standard plan is per node, and we also have the Microsoft Defender ATP for servers, and 1 per covered server. Then if we drill down at the supported Windows versions, you can see that we go way back even. Windows 7 Service Pack 1 is also supported, and we still see that a lot at customers, that Windows 7 is still there, even if it's not supported anymore, so take care of that. But it's possible. What's my best practice is I always try to shift them to Windows 10 first before enrolling them in cloud management and in MDATP. But you can enroll Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Enterprise and Pro, and Windows 10 Enterprise. Enterprise long-term servicing channel is also included, the education, and also the Pro. Take note that Windows 10 Home is not supported for Defender for Endpoint, of course. If you look at the supported Windows Server versions, we can go back to 2008 R2, Service Pack 1. Windows Server 2012 is also in there, 2016, and of course the latest version 2019 is in there. If we talk about onboarding, how can we get our devices in Defender for Endpoint? And it's really simplified. We have a few options. I'll also show you in a demo later how we can set up our instance on our Defender instance. I'll go over some basic configuration tasks. But what are the options for onboarding your devices? First of all, we can onboard them with a local script for up to 10 devices. We can do it for testing. If you don't have any cloud management or endpoint management console like Intune or config manager SCCM, you can onboard them with a group policy, of course, a GPO. That's an easy method. Microsoft System Center current branch can be used for onboarding, for simplified onboarding. System Center Configuration Manager, the older versions, 2012, 2012 R2, can also be used for onboarding, of course. And Microsoft Intune can be used for simplified onboarding, and I'll show you that in the demo later on. Down-level OS support is coming, but like I already said, the supported OS versions I already mentioned. The simplified policy authoring experience. So if we work with Intune standalone or Intune co-managed, we will onboard them through there. If we work with config manager standalone, either way on Windows 10 or on a server, current branch, we will onboard them from there. I will show you this later on in a demo. So it will be easy to get for everyone how easy Microsoft made it to onboard your devices in MDATP. Now, it's one thing to onboard your devices, of course. You still have to set it up. It doesn't come set up with a standard best practice, so you have some customization to do, and I'll go over that also in the demo. On my next slide, it's pure informative, but you can see Tenant Attach. If you work with co-management in SCCM, we want to import our data to Intune for the cloud console. So I've put it in there. It's important that we cross that import data to Intune for cloud console, and we put that setting on. Back to you, Dwayne. What services does Microsoft Defender provide? You're still muted, Dwayne. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, thank you. Let's talk about those services and discuss what those what Windows Microsoft Defender provides before we get into Tim's demo, which I'm really looking forward to seeing around how to deploy it after what he was talking about. But key thing here is we've talked about and what Tim just mentioned was a lot of the Windows. Windows 10 and Windows user as well as server-based operating systems that are supported. But we can utilize the Microsoft 365 Defender services across multiple platforms, not just Windows. We can utilize it on iOS and Mac OS profiles. We can utilize it on Android. So therefore, they work cross-profile around any device that a user is going to be using, so we can protect ourselves. So many users might have a Windows 10 laptop or desktop that they're utilizing, but they're not. But they might have an Android phone or an iPhone. Microsoft had gone away from using from Windows phones for a while. Now you might have the Surface Duo as your phone type device, but that's an Android type device as well. So you need to build your profiles and how you're going to set up your security around the different devices that you have in your environment and how you're going to protect them as well. And you can see here, very busy slide here, but you can see there are with conditional access controls and putting conditional access policies in place, which Tim and I talked in depth about in our last CloudMaker episode. We can build those different signals and conditions to put different controls in place across various applications, whether they're Microsoft applications, they're third-party cloud applications, as well as on-premise applications. So putting all those things in place to control whether we're going to allow users to access those applications and whether they're going to be able to access those from a particular device, as well as then those different session controls of restricting downloads, disabling print, and things like that when they're on public networks or potentially risky networks. So a lot of things that you can do putting Microsoft Defender XDR in place. And again, utilizing then Intune and endpoint protection on your devices then to create those roles and to detect those roles, from various malicious apps, different network exploits and things of that nature and tie very closely then through our Azure Active Directory control to enforce multi-factor authentication, enforce a password reset, or just block entirely or even wipe that device if it's a stolen device to avoid any type of exposure of sensitive data to malicious bad actors. And then that all integrates as well, not just to Microsoft services, as you can see at the bottom of the slide. It works with many third-party services that you might have in your enterprise as well. So it's not tied completely to just Microsoft. And then around, what we're trying to get to as an end goal within ATP is really to provide protection across all of your devices, utilizing the policies and capabilities of Microsoft Defender, Advanced Threat Protection, Microsoft Intune, Endpoint Protection, to identify those threats, detect those threats, and stop those threats from getting down to the user level, where we might then create some sort of level of exposure or let somebody into our environment that can do damage outside of just a single user, but across the entire enterprise. And then those tools then, obviously, like I said, can then take the those access policies and take those capabilities and remediate those threats, can identify what those are, and have the intelligence then to provide information that you can then put those controls in place. You can investigate and now understand what took place, and avoid it from happening again. But you're also then in the forefront, protecting those devices and protecting those users from getting any kind of threat and exploited within your environment, and protecting your environment at that point. And then from Microsoft Defender, you can also utilize, again, endpoint protection and advanced threat protection for avoiding different events and different tamper protection and events. And Tim, maybe you can talk a little bit more on this one. I'm not super familiar with the tamper protection, so if you want to talk about this and then go into your demo, that'd be great.
Yes, Dwayne. So tamper protection means that we'll have a protection, so hackers or other people can change the security settings or can change our security settings, and we can of course deploy that with Microsoft Defender together with Intune. Let me go to a demo and I'll go over some useful things. Let me share my screen. There. Is my screen visible?
It is. You're all set.
Okay. So the first time that you will start, or you will go to securitycenter.microsoft.com, which is the link for the Defender Security Center. You'll go through a wizard. Cannot show you, but I can show you what it will ask you. First, it will ask you your data storage. Where will it be stored? So I'm from Europe, so of course I chose Europe. This will be the first question you get asked. Where will your data be stored? Your second question will be, what is your data retention? How long will you keep it there? And then the third step is, how will we onboard devices? So that's the wizard that we go through before we get to this blade. So you'll have to choose your data storage, your data retention, and then you'll get how will you onboard your devices. We're going to do it with Intune, but you can just skip this and your dashboard will be made for you. Take notice that it can take up to 5 minutes before it's ready. And if you all are already configuring your deployment profiles in Intune, it can take some delay before you can make them. So first step is securitycenter.microsoft.com. We'll go to the wizard. So our data retention, we'll choose where, our storage, and we'll choose how we will onboard our devices. After a minute or 5, our dashboard here will be available. What's interesting then, I'll just open the blade fully. You see that we have a lot of sub-blades here: incidents, device inventory, alerts queue. I'll go over most of them in our demos. First thing you want to do here is go to the settings, advanced features, and here a lot of these things will be on off. So like most things with Microsoft, they provide a great platform for us to use, but we'll still have to configure it. So I'll advise you to put most of the switches on. You can see there will be an identity integration, cloud app security integration, Azure information protection. The more data that gets fed into all these security features from Microsoft, the better it will be able to protect you. Also, what I definitely advise you to put on automated investigations. We will automate our investigations, and we can choose which actions will have to be taken from what risks that gets detected. We want to get live response, and we want to get instant responses. EDR in block mode is something you can put on, automatically resolve alerts, allow our block file. So most of these switches can be put on, and most of these will be standard on off. So take care of that. But like I said, we want to enroll them with Intune. So we're going to put the Intune connection on. We'll put this on, and don't forget to click on save if you change anything. Save preferences, not on apply. What is the second part to do to get our data there? So we've put up our security dashboard or Defender Security Center dashboard by going through the wizard, putting our switches on here, and I'll go over the rest in a bit. So in Intune, we want to enroll our devices into Defender for Endpoint. How can we do this here? If we go to Tenant Administration, Connectors and Tokens, Defender ATP, we can choose here which devices we want to enroll in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So if we want to connect to Android devices or your iOS devices, you just put the switch on. Windows devices is here, and unsupported OS you can block here. This is a second step. So first step is creating our Security Center dashboard here, putting our switch from Intune on. Second step is choose what you want to enroll from platform, Android, iOS, or Windows. And there's one more step, because it's not because we enroll our devices in Defender for Endpoint that there will be data there. We'll have to send data to Defender to analyze and give recommendations. How can we do that in Intune? We go to Endpoint Security, Endpoint Detection and Response. You can create a new policy here, Windows 10. And you will see, I'll just give it a name. There are two settings that we'll have to put on: sample sharing for all files and expedite telemetry reporting frequency. If we deploy this to our devices, in 24 hours, the data will be populated in Defender for Endpoint. So this is everything on configuration side, Intune Defender for Endpoint, if you want to enroll your devices and put the data in there. I'll go over something a little bit more. Because like I said, out of the box, it does not come configured. I can give you some of my best practices, what I mostly do. I'll always work with device groups. So you'll have to create your device groups. There will be no device groups here when you start your portal from scratch. So you can make them here. If you have different actions to be taken on different device groups, you'll have to create them here. It's really simple. Add device group. You give your device group a name. You can choose an automation level. So that's also nice. If you want everything to be fully remediated automatically, you can choose it here. And the members will get populated dynamically. So if we look at let's check, cancel this. If we look at my production group, you will see that all my devices who start with switch and all my devices in my tenant start with that name will get populated in this group. What can I give here from recommendations from projects in the field? We had one project, one customer who moved to Microsoft 365 E5 license, so the full-blown stack with MCAS, Defender for Endpoint, everything in it. But they wanted to get rid of their firewalls, their proxies, so they wanted to take the full capabilities of the license. So they also did web filtering in MDATP, web content filtering, blocking of sites, allowing our sites, and they worked with levels. So C-level or management had access to every site and didn't get anything blocked. Then you had a level below that who got a little less rights, and you got a level below that one who didn't get a lot of rights, who couldn't do a lot on internet. So we made 3 groups here. It's too bad that you can't link them with users or logged on users, but you can create a logic app to populate them on logged on user also. So it's possible. It's not built in here. So make your groups. Make sure you have a group for every action or every persona you want to achieve or actions you want to perceive for that persona. What's also interesting here, pump indicators. Like I said, if you want to use Defender for Endpoint for blocking URLs or domains or for allowing them, you can do it here. You can just add an item. Let's say we want to block cloudboy.be. Just don't do it, but there. You can choose an end date. You can go to next. You can say alert and blocked. You can give it a title here. Severity, you can choose. Description. And you will see that you can, here, you can select your group you want to apply it on. So this is nice if you want to move away from network blocking in your firewall. You can do it in Defender for Endpoint if you want. A really nice feature is the web content filtering. So a lot of firewalls provide web content filtering. It's also possible with Defender for Endpoint. If you can see, I already made one here. And you can choose what you want to block. So I girls, gambling, nudity, pornography, sex education, child abuse. And if we check one of those, gambling, let's just test it. You'll see it just get blocked. And it also will get blocked in Chrome because it does blocking on network level. And we can test it also. Let's hope the demo gods are. There. It will give me a pop-up now, a toast notification that the content is blocked. So this is also a nice feature of Defender for Endpoint. It's more than just a virus scan or a very advanced virus scan. We can use some other features. Let me see if I got everything. Alert notification, also interesting. If you have devices that will get at a certain risk score, low, medium, or high, you can put some alerting in here that some people get an email or notification when they reach that alert severity. Of course, we can implement Power BI with custom dashboards. The advanced features I went over, auto remediation. Yeah, like I said, in my production group, everything will get remediated automatically. You can choose it here. Like I said, it's really important to have device groups. And before you start implementing it, to think about what sort of device groups you will need and how many to make your life easier. If you're going to do some changes, after you implement it, it will be harder. So first have a good plan of implementing it and make sure architectural wise your plan is in order. You have your device groups and then you can go on. So device groups really important. Make sure you use those. Custom detections is nothing with the alert suppression. Yeah. If you have software installed and it gives you an alert, but it's a false alert, you can of course suppress it. You can see I've been playing a lot with it. Indicators will get populated themselves. Content filtering. No, that's it for now for the demo. So you can go back to the slides, Wayne.
Yep. Let me get my sharing back on. All right. I think, Tim, you're going to talk about how now we can utilize Defender for protecting our organization as well.
Yes, correct. Just all right. How can Microsoft Defender help our organization? Let me give you some best practices. First, map out roles and responsibilities for secondments in your organization. Who's going to do what? Do you have two teams? Do you have still a SecOps team and a security team or an admin team? Or is it one team? Make sure you map out the roles and responsibilities. Who is going to do what in your organization? Connect IT and security services with the workflow. Automate as much as possible. That's also my advice. If you can automate something, make sure you do it. If you have config manager, make sure you enable cloud attach or co-management to unify endpoint security. Also, you will get a lot of data imported in endpoint manager, even from your on-premises environment. Minimize endpoint security agents. You don't want 10 agents on your devices. Of course, it will have an impact there. Consolidate security administration. Surface areas across GPOs, SCCM, Intune, and ATP. Use security baselines as a starting point. It's a really good one. Microsoft provides us with security baselines. You can use them with GPOs, or you can also use them in Intune or Config Manager. There are a set of configuration profiles that they recommend to deploy to your devices to make them secure. Make sure you enable tamper protection. That's so that the hackers can't change your security settings. We don't want that. Deploy BitLocker management using Microsoft Endpoint Manager. It's a little bit outside ATP, but it's also interesting. And make use of all the features Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection has, of course. There's a lot of them. And you can see here that all the products love each other. I give a session of Intune together with MDATP. You can see it works closely together. And that's the great benefit of the great ecosystem that Microsoft provides us for now. Let me give you another demo with what more we can do with Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection, or Defender for Endpoints, as it's called now. I still have to get used to the new names. Let's see. Yes. So I've gone over some settings, but of course we can do a lot more here. Let me go over all the blades. Incidents. If an incident will get created, we can find it here. Device inventory. That's a really nice one. Here we'll see all our devices. If we look back furthermore, all the devices I got onboarded in Defender for Endpoints. You can see I had no data available because a lot of those are virtual machines that I just spin for testing and I put them out. The machine I'm working on now is the Switch 1818. You can see I'm AAD joined. This means this device is not joined with an on-premises Active Directory. It's a cloud device, Azure Active Directory joined. I have no known risks, so I have no open alerts. Even though my device is configured pretty strict, I only got a medium exposure score. Normally I have a low, so let's check out what's wrong here. You can see the Windows version, the health state. My device is active. It's the only one that's been active for a while here. Of course, we can click on the device and drill down on it. So we'll get a lot more info even here. Tags, also interesting. And I didn't tell you this. If you want to work with device groups and you want to group them without any automation behind it, so you can use tags. So you can tag a machine and build your device groups with tags. It's also possible. I've done this with a client also. Here's some basic info. No open incidents, no active alerts. My exposure level is medium. Some device details. My device is AID joined, like I said. I have an x64 processor, my Windows build, my group. I'm in this group, my IP address. Alerts. There won't be any open now. Let's see if there are some closed. Yeah. So all alerts that get spawned, well, you can see here. You can see I also resolve them, of course, but every alert of your machine will be here. You have a timeline. What did my machine do? And you can see if you look here at the top at the timeline, I have a red V. If I click on that, that will have triggered an alert. So you can go back there to see what happened. I do a lot of testing, so there are a lot of red flags there. There you can see I tested something. Security recommendations. For me, this feature is really great because what does it give us? It gives us a load of security recommendations that we can implement to make our device even more secure. So if we can see here, update Google Chrome, update Microsoft Office. My updates, third-party app updates are managed with Chocolatey and Patch My PC, so I'm sure they will update themselves. But if we look here, set controller folder access to enable or audit mode. So I didn't put it on yet in my tenant. Application guard, credential guard, even though this is on my machine. But what is the nice thing about all these security recommendations that we get? That if we click on them, click on the full recommendation. You can see here remediation options. So it will also tell us what to do to turn it on. So if you see remediation for turn on Microsoft Defender Credential Guard, it will tell you what to do. Follow these steps, ensure you have the prerequisites are met, and enable using Microsoft Intune. If you then click on it, you will go to the docs with the how-to on how to create such a profile. So this is one of the examples I'm giving. Let's go to another one.
Very similar to Azure Security Center and their recommendations.
Yeah,
it's not a quick fix. It sends you to Microsoft Docs and tells you how to do it.
Yeah, it's really great. And even I'm gonna find another one that's maybe even more better. Yeah, block office applications. So here we talk about attack surface reduction rules and all those things. Let's say we want to make those rules, those attack surface reduction rules. It's really simple. We just click on the security recommendation. We click on open the full recommendation. Again, here we have remediation options, and it will say us to create an ASR rule. And it just says enable this rule. So if we click on this rule, you will immediately see what you have to block from GUID. So it's the system really works well. It gives you recommendations, but it also helps you with providing us the documentation on how to do it, which makes it a powerful tool for me. What's also nice, and this is nice for the Intune fans, we can of course create a ticket here. Let's say we want to have this fixed by Friday. Notes can be put here. And if we click on submit here, it will create a ticket in Intune. So if we go to Endpoint Security tasks, you will see that a ticket will get created here. So if we work in 2 teams, our Intune team can take it up and our security team can monitor. It can give the recommendations of, they can see, oh, I have 3 new recommendations. I'm going to create 3 security tasks for our other team so they can work together. Let's see what else that I can tell you. So security recommendations, really great. You can have a lot of info from it. My browser is stuck. Let's go to the next blade if my computer wants. Devices, yes. I think I've said everything from security recommendations. So it gives us recommendations on software configuration. It's like this here, Google Chrome. We can disable allow running plugins. So we can do that with the Chrome ADMX. So it will tell you how to do it with the group policy. Of course, you will have to have the Chrome ADMX installed, or if you want to do it with the registry, how to put a value or what value to put. Software inventory is also nice because it will list all software that has been found on that machine, and if it's up to date or not, and how many weaknesses does it have. So if we look here at Chrome, I'm going to be 1 version behind, I think. So my version has 2 weaknesses. If you again click on it, you will get some more recommendations, and you can even open the software page. See on how many devices is my outdated Chrome installed, what vulnerabilities are there, what CVEs. If you want more info, you can click on them. It will also tell you what it does. Let's go back to devices and take my device. So vulnerabilities. This will show all the CVEs that are found in your organization, so on all your machines. So you see I have some alerts from other machines also. They will be here. Again, if you click on them, you will get more information, and missing KBs will be here. So this for the devices blade, really powerful. So take away what do you have to take away? The security recommendations are really neat. The alert history, really great. Alerts queue, even alerts get created, it will be here in the queue. I don't have any here. You can pick it up. You can investigate. You can close it, of course. Automated investigations is also nice. What can I tell you more? Advanced hunting. We can do some advanced hunting in Microsoft Defender. It uses the KQL query language. If you want to learn it, Heike Ritter published how to become a ninja in MDATP. So that's a good link to start with. But what you can also do if you want to start playing with these queries and you don't know how to make them, if you go down, you have some suggested queries that you can run, or community queries. This is a good starting point if you want to learn some KQL querying and you want to have some fun. You can start here. Let's say it will open here. You can click run the query and it will give your export here. Let me see. Of course, we have some reports, threat protection reports. Let's see if it goes through. There. You can see some reporting, device health and compliance reporting, vulnerable devices, which devices are the most vulnerable, and how did they move over time? Did it get better? Didn't it get better? Let's see there. Yeah. There's one more thing I want to show you. Of course, we can connect partners and APIs, partner applications. You can see there are a lot of them already built in with how to implement them to work together. The threat and vulnerability management dashboard is really nice. I've talked about the security recommendations and remediation. If we open it from the device inventory blade and we click on get more information, it will always send us to here. So we can see our exposure score organization-wise, how good is our score, our device score, how good is our device score, how good are our applications protected, our OS exposure distribution. And here you also see the top security recommendations. So like we said, block all Office applications from creating child processes in ASR rule. If you click on it here, you'll see that we come in the same view as before, and we'll have the remediation options here. And then you'll get the how-to, and you can implement it. What else is here? It's a bit the same remediation. I have to do 3 more devices. There was something else I wanted to show you. Yeah, here, evaluation lab. Also, if you're new with Defender for endpoints, you can start your own evaluation lab here. It's a guide you can follow and you can play with it. They'll give you some tasks to do. Also nice is simulation and tutorials. So if you're new with Microsoft Defender for endpoint, or you want to test some scenarios, you think you've set everything up, you've configured your whole Defender stack, your Intune configuration, and you want to test some attacks, you can get simulation file, and you always have a walkthrough here. This for tutorials and also for simulations. So if you want to do an automated investigation backdoor, you'll get a simulation file, and you can test if Defender will trigger an alert or auto-remediate it like you have set it up. Let's check service health. Yes, that I think I've gone over everything in a nutshell. Back to you, Dwayne.
All right. So, quick question there, Tim. Yeah. On that simulation there, is that replacing the attack simulation that's in the security section
it's something different.
Microsoft
something
365,
different.
or it's just something different? Okay.
Yeah, it's something different. This is more for hacking scenarios or automated investigations, like a fileless attack, like here. No, these are hacker scenarios. And the simulation that we can do with ATP, the other one is to send out phishing campaigns. It's a little bit different. Yeah.
This is more to to simulate what an attacker might do rather than more of the education, more than the education that the attack simulator does. Then
of course.
Or that's built more for educating your user environment and getting reports from that standpoint,
making them aware that there's some phishing. And here you want to simulate if our setup is done right, if we can still, if Defender will trigger an alert or will find it. This is more
okay, I see what
it's really great to play with.
Yeah, no, very, very cool. And yeah, Microsoft's done some great things with what they've done with this whole suite of products, and as they tie more of it together, you can see it starting to mesh together with the Azure capabilities as well, with Security Center and Sentinel and all of that. It's all starting to come together, and you can have then that single point of truth among your entire cloud environment.
Yeah, for me, it's the power of the Microsoft ecosystem, that everything is so connected. It works together fine. It's a great product.
Yeah, great. All right. Any things back here? All right. So that brings us to the end of this episode of CloudMaker. So, hopefully everybody has gotten some great information today on the Microsoft Defender XDR suite of products. We talked about how it works, what licenses are required, what does it provide to your environment, as well as how do you utilize it then to protect the organization. I think from what we provided in terms of the informational slides, as well as I think Tim's walkthrough in these environments should give you a great foundation and idea around how you can utilize these tools within your environment to provide that central point of truth for protecting your organization against threats, remediating those vulnerabilities, and continuing then to protect your organization through your users, your devices, your applications, and your entire ecosystem, utilizing all of those security best practices and recommendations that are provided with the suite of Microsoft Defender products. So thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you enjoyed this CloudMaker expert talk on protection with Microsoft Defender. My name is Dwayne Natwick.
My name is Tim Hermé.
And you can find these expert talks available on skillmeup.com, as well as the Skill Me Up YouTube channel. Generally, these talks are available for a couple weeks on the skillmeup.com before they go public on the YouTube channel. But keep an eye out there. Tim and I did a talk about a little less than a month ago that's up on the YouTube channel right now on cloud application security. So you can go look at that one, and these two kind of tie together pretty tightly. So feel free to go out and see those, as well as other episodes that have been done previously, and any future talks that are coming up. You can view the upcoming live schedule on skillmeup.com. So thank you very much for your time today, and have a great day.